Yo, what are you doing right now? We are going to get real about men's issues, who Jesus is, and who we are as men in Christ. We're going to hear Trey, Jeremy, Michael, and Brad break it down. These guys call themselves the Cussin Christians. All right, guys, what is going on?
Making the pizza. The pizza.
The best was the crab, though. When he throws his arms up and he's like,
"Oh, is that the crab back and forth?"
That's why I don't dance, man. It's like either you're really cool and you're good at it, or you just look like an idiot. And I'm on the idiot side, so I just can't.
well, you just got to get more confidence.
Yeah,
Because most dancing looks stupid.
right.
It's just how your
I guess
face looks.
that's where the
difference.
drinking comes in. That's why I've never been good at it.
I can honestly say that does help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you grew up, and you grew up in the old disco
dancing.
days.
Yeah, but in the Baptist church, Southern Baptist church, dancing was bad.
That
man.
wasn't good.
It's like if you heard somebody's dancing, they were a carnal Christian, and it was like, ooh, that guy dances.
Carnal Christian.
Carnal Christian, yeah.
Oh,
What's that
man,
mean?
that could be our
It's kind of like a worldly Christian, like somebody who's trying to still do things in the world, but go to church.
Gotcha.
Carnal mind, yeah.
Carnal Christian. I've never heard that.
Oh, you really?
No.
Oh, dude, that was a big accusation
he's
back
just
in the
a-
70s,
He's
man.
just
It's
a carnal Christian.
Yeah.
He went to see Saturday Night Fever.
Yep.
That's a whole episode.
I was a good disco dancer.
Are we carnal Christians?
Let's explore that next year.
You remember the disco era?
Oh man, I wore the bell-bottom jeans
The
and
high
pretended
heel
like I was
ass.
John Travolta and did all
Yeah,
that.
so did
I
I.
remember sneaking in to see that movie when I was
great.
13 years old,
I had all the moves down.
and it was funny. About 4 months later, the movie was still in theaters, and we went to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And my little brother's like 7, about to be 8, and we had some downtime, and there was a movie theater down the street. And guess what was playing? Saturday Night Fever.
Nice.
And I said, "Oh yeah, that's no problem. We can go watch that movie with my 7-year-old brother, Mom. No big deal." As the movie progressed, I could see my mom getting redder and redder and redder. I mean, it was dark in there, but you could see the glow. And
Yeah.
then we got done, and she goes, "That movie wasn't okay for your little brother to see.
You
There
done?
was a stripper. Did you see what happened in the back seat? And did you?" My little brother was going like that.
Nice. I think the first rated R movie I snuck into was Blade Runner.
Really?
Yeah, and
Wesley Snipes, right?
No,
no.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford. Oh,
Yeah.
that's Harrison. Okay, yeah.
And Rutger Hauer was like the bad guy.
Yeah.
So we snuck in towards the end when it's really violent, dark, and they're fighting, and he squeezes some dude's eyes and crushes his head. And I was like, I don't know, but I was 12, 13 or something like that. I was like, this is exactly what I thought all rated R movies were like.
Yeah, man.
Dark and scary.
You
and
moved to the
blood, and I
other
was like,
side.
whoa.
You became carnal.
I became a carnal Christian that day.
Carnal.
Oh, well, we had a good time last week with Jeremy and his son. And we decided we were going to share a little story about our kids when we first heard them cuss. And since this has been basically the Christmas show, we're going
Yeah.
to talk about Christmas morning at Brad's house a few years ago.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so my youngest, I've got 3 kids, and there are 10 years between Gabriel and Judah. 10 years of difference in age. Gabe's the youngest, and then 17 years between Gabe and Lauren. So Christmas morning, he's maybe 3 years old. We're opening presents, and out of nowhere, he opens his present. He looks and he goes, "Damn!" And then he says, and Lauren's like, "Stop saying that." And he goes, "Damn!" Like he just keeps doing it, and then she starts going, "You didn't hear that from me," because we know he didn't hear it from us,
Right.
And we know he didn't hear it from Judah. So it was funny. She had this guilty conscience. She's like, "You didn't hear it from me. Stop saying that."
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So here's the video right here.
Damn!
You didn't hear that from me.
Damn!
Gabriel, stop saying that.
Damn!
You didn't hear that from me. Stop saying that.
What is this? What is this?
Who cheated?
I want another gift!
They mimic us in every way, or people older than them they look up to, and they pick up the littlest things or the cutest things, or sometimes us that are worse. And so we just always have to keep that in mind. Oh, my gosh.
Cautionary tale.
And I was one of those guys that just felt like baby Jesus was just born on Christmas, and that's when he came into the world. And things progressed from there. He had to be born, but I had no conception of the overall plan, and Jesus was part of it since the beginning of time. beginning of whenever God planted the seed that we're going to make this little blue rock and place it, next to Mars and so many miles away from the sun and all that. And I never, you think about the Trinity in Genesis 1:27 of, let us make man in our image, and it hits you like,
He was there.
Jesus was in the boardroom with God up there making that decision, and they were staring down, going, "Let's do this. Let's make Michael Thomas in our image, and we're going to do it in 19."
Jesus must
62.
have been gorgeous. Then.
Jesus was, but to me, if you really understand what starts, the plan is when you have that revelation of the plan that God had in place for us, for Jesus to be the mediator and to be our way into live with God after our death. You realize the sacrifice that God had to put forth, because he gave us free will, but as that free will came about, we had to have the need for Jesus here. And I know you guys, Jeremy, had started, y'all have had some cool discussions with your group about this topic, and it's Christmas week, so let's just talk about Christ in Christmas, what it means. And it's not all rosy, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, well, that's one of the things, and I think first book I ever read was the Bible in Light of Our Redemption.
Yeah.
And he actually looks at the cross from the Bible forward, though. Like, so it goes from the garden to the death of Christ, but through the lens of the cross throughout the whole thing. And as you read it, and you start to recognize that, okay, the snake came into the garden, we screwed up, we eat the apple, right? But then that's just the starting point, right? And in that moment, actually in Genesis 3, that Jesus has talked about right then, about all that has to happen, the bloodline going through David, all the prophecies that'll come true, the fact that he's going to eventually be born in Bethlehem, right? And then has to run into Egypt and hide because of the things that are going to come. And a lot of people don't realize all the things that happened and came true due to the prophecies, but what that cost a lot of people along the way. And that's what our conversation in our small group was this week was, what was the cost of Christmas, right? And, you were saying, Jesus and God in the boardroom with the Holy Spirit, so they're talking, hey, how are we going to do this? They already knew
They knew
the things
that
that were going wrong.
I was just trying to paint a visual of so we could all relate to.
Well, I mean, listen, it might have been a boardroom. Who knows? But the reality is that they're sitting up there saying, and Jesus with his angels and all high, and everything in heaven's perfect. You know what I mean? At this point, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll go down to earth, being a wrecked up body. Go through all this suffering that the humans go through, so I can understand it, and then I'm going to take all the sin from all eternity past and all eternity forward, and God, you're going to dump that on top of me.
Jeez.
And that's the kind of thing when you think of Christmas you don't think about. You think about the Grinch, Elf, all these things. Santa Claus, but we don't think about the real meaning of Christmas and what it's about.
Right.
Well, that's an interesting point, Trey, that you brought up about connecting Christmas to what Jesus did on the cross. And for us growing up, it was my dad would read the Christmas story in Luke chapter 2 every year. For me, it was just something I had to endure so I could open the presents. So I never went beyond.
Big time. Yeah.
All right, Jesus was born, sweet, let's open the gifts.
Let's go.
I never connected it to this was the beginning of God's plan, and this was it. But yeah, you think about how we wanted, or back then they were looking for a mighty warrior to come. They were looking for a king to come.
Somebody's going to kill Rome.
Yeah, they were looking for this guy just to appear and be like ready to go. Mm-hmm. And so him coming as a baby, as a vulnerable infant in a manger, it's like it was just so not the way we would have chosen to do it.
Well, I mean, the Jewish people didn't think that either. They thought he'd be coming in on chariots with an army and all these things.
He's coming in on something big on the second time, that's for sure.
Is that anywhere in the Old Testament describing how he's going to come in, other than Isaiah 53? That's explaining exactly how he's.
Well, yeah, and I've got it turned to that for the price paid. We'll get to in a little while, but yeah, you're right.
Why would they think that's the way he's coming?
That's what they wanted.
That's what they wanted.
Nobody was saying, "Hey, man, can't wait for this baby to come." Like we're going to have to wait 30 years for him to grow up so we can do something. That's going to be awesome. No, they wanted him to like appear in a cloud,
And
with chariots of fire, and be like, let's go.
the Romans run away,
Yeah.
but they've been battling that for thousands of years. With the different kingdoms that overtook them, displaced them. They came back, rebuilt the temple, get displaced again.
Right.
So they're they got the mentality, when he comes, enough's enough. This is it, the final time. And a little bitty baby coming in, and
Well, again, that just goes to show God's ways are much better and much higher than ours.
Yeah.
Because even now, the things that I would choose or the way I want things to work out, God's like going, now I'm going to do it my way, and it may take longer, and it may not look like what you want, but it's going to be better for you in the end.
Right.
And we all still battled that today, but back then, that the whole Jesus coming as a baby,
Right.
it's like it started back then.
right.
It's so interesting how God's plan is so much different than the way we vision
Yep.
it should be, no matter what the plan is, right? It can be how Christ came into the world, or something as simple as how I'm supposed to tie my shoes this morning. But if I don't do it the way He wanted me to do it, the shoes are never getting tied,
Right.
And it's
Well, and when it comes to fruition, it's easy to recognize and go, man, that was it. That was the thing that God was trying to do. And man, I'm glad I didn't get my way.
Right.
I'm glad it didn't play out the way I wanted it to, because this is
Yeah.
way better.
Or you have that moment where you go, holy crap, I was screaming at him,
Yep.
and now it makes sense. I was an idiot. I woke up that morning and said, hey, God, here's my plan, and he laughed at me. Okay, let's see how well that goes.
Yep.
How many of us experience that? The price paid, and something we don't, it's tough to, not to describe, but that plan of 40 years in the wilderness and eating manna, and that plan of Moses cursing at the rock, or hitting the rock with the stick, and then Moses being forbidden from going into the promised land. I always thought Moses got gypped, man.
He did.
He was selected, part of the Red Sea, and all these things, and just because he got a little frustrated and hit a rock with a stick,
Yep.
instead of just telling the rock to produce water, God says, "That's not what I told you." And I was like, "Man,
You're out."
God got him, man. But that whole thing was part of it. God knew the price paid. You think about Noah and the ark, and we always see the beautiful little caricatures on our kids' nursery walls of this ark with the giraffe's head sticking out. They're all smiling.
Everybody's smiling.
But they don't ever show all the people screaming and drowning beneath the boat, and there were some major prices paid along the way that we can look back and connect to God's plan based on Adam and the sin that the world fell into because of what the free will and what we chose to do.
I brought up a point to you last night. You know how long it took Noah to build the ark?
I would imagine a very long time.
I forget. It was like
120 years.
Yeah, 120.
So think about that. He's building this ark and knows what's going to happen, and all these people around him, he's telling them for 120 years that this is going to happen. Think of God's grace in that for 120 years he gave these people a chance
Yeah,
to repent.
Yep. Excellent point.
that's so true, and He's still giving us that chance in this world today. The world population eclipsed 8 billion people a few weeks ago. Did y'all see that article?
8 billion.
8 billion people, and I guess only about 3 billion of us are Christians. So there's still a lot of opportunity and a lot of grace to be given if somebody chooses.
You guys know I love I love the mathematics behind it, but when you break down in order for Jesus to fulfill the prophecies, he had to come from Adam and Eve, right? So Mary had to be a direct descendant of Adam and Eve. And if you actually trace,
so was Joseph.
and so was Joseph. So because both of those things had to happen to fulfill the prophecy. Well, Adam and Eve would have been what, 3,000 or 4,000 years before Jesus, minimum.
Yeah.
Several millennia. So
Give or take, yep.
if you think that your lifetime, and then obviously Adam lived the longest at 1,000 years, and then or whoever did, but it decreased over time. But the reality is, like, the odds of those things happening, is so low. Just Mary and Joseph finding each other to be married with the same with the bloodlines that they had in order to fulfill that prophecy are next to impossible.
Right. Well, but you're right, and this goes back to what Brad said about a minute ago. Is our thoughts and our way we can't even comprehend, and for just this whole grand scheme of what's happening here in these pages. But then you think about the enormity, and I heard a commentary this morning as I was doing my morning scroll, and I just thought he brought up a fascinating point, and he said, "You want to talk about the price paid?" And he uses this analogy. He said, "Say you come home, and you walk in, Brad, and there is a man in there that's murdering your family." Okay, and the forgiveness of God isn't you go into the courtroom and the judge looks at you. What would you think when the judge looked at everything that happened? This guy's caught red-handed doing this horrible thing, and the judge pardons him. And there's a lot of people that think Christianity is that. I did all these horrible things and I'm just pardoned. If you just stop there, you're missing the boat.
Right.
The price paid was no. If that was God didn't just it just didn't. You're pardoned and it just vanishes. It's gone. No. God unleashed all of that punishment you're supposed to have on his own child.
Right. Yeah, the price was still paid.
The price was paid
So
in a huge, huge, huge way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting analogy of how he kind of tried to frame the meaning of Christ and how, it started before he was a baby, but as he progressed for 30 years and the blood was shed, as Isaiah says, he will be pierced for our transgressions, crushed for our iniquities. Upon him was the chastisement that brought us peace, and with his wounds we are healed. It's not like it just disappears. It happened. The punishment was there. And now we believe it. We're free from that punishment because the punishment was put on Jesus. Now our sins, like Michael always talks about here on earth, we're going to pay consequences for them. And everything else. I'm not talking about every murderer gets into heaven, but every murderer that believes in Christ, sorry guys, it happens. And if it's a genuine conversion inside of you, what a gift that is.
Right.
Right. Whether you're stealing something or thinking dirty about something or you kill somebody, and that's a hard thing for people to get their minds around. The price was paid in such a big way.
Well, and for Jesus to, again, I think you referenced it earlier, to leave heaven knowing this is what he was going to have to go through. And he didn't have to. He could have chosen just to stay up there. But he chose to come down. It just blows my mind that he would do that knowing what was coming.
Did they choose to come? And that's another thing a lot of people think is, okay, like God's watching this thing happen underneath him, this big game, right? And then
He's the puppet master.
But God doesn't. God knows. If God knows, is he going, okay, I don't like what's going on there, so I'm sending Jesus in? No, right. He goes, all right, now that happened. Jesus,
now I can send you.
Now and I knew that was going to happen, and I waited 4,000 years for it to happen, and time to go.
Yeah, and I think true love compelled him to do that.
Yeah.
So in a way, there was no choice.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No choice at all. It was just planned.
Right.
Interesting. Oh man, we might get theologians writing us and saying you guys are screwed up, but I don't care.
Yeah, I kind of am.
We are kind of. We kind of are.
We got the end. We got the end message right, no matter what.
Yeah, man, it's fun to talk through it and think about it.
Yeah, I mean, just the things that had to happen. Michael, you were telling us about the Magi, like that piece. That highly interesting to me because I always thought it was three wise men sitting in a field, and by the time the baby popped out, they're sitting there with some frankincense and myrrh and
gold
hanging out. And
no, it was
that's not even close,
like 2
right?
years later.
Yeah.
Some think a couple years later. Some thinking it was a few weeks later. But they actually went to Herod first,
Yeah, evil man.
and Herod's that got his okay. Well, why don't you go check it out for me? Then
Well, because Herod considered himself the king of the Jews,
Yeah.
right? And that
He was a-
he didn't like that the king of the Jews had been quote unquote born.
egomaniac guy, yeah,
Evil.
So then,
evil.
I mean, I don't know if you want to tell the story, the whole story.
No,
but-
it's great.
I mean, then Herod basically says, "Hey, like I'm not going to let this baby beat me,
Right.
So I'm going to send all my soldiers in to murder all the males 2 years of age or less."
or less.
Meanwhile, the Magi's are in there, and then this is the part I didn't know. I thought there was only 3. You're telling me there's a whole army of people with them.
Well, that's the way they traveled.
They had the three with their entourage.
And so think of the gifts that were given to him. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Myrrh was used to as an embalming. They still talk about it today as far as what it's actually used for. But how much gold did Jesus get? Was it enough for Mary and Joseph to not ever have to work again? Was it enough for Jesus to just go in, what his calling was eventually to be, full-time ministry? I don't know. But it wasn't cheap gifts, and I don't know if that's where all the gift giving comes in at Christmas time. I don't know if that's where it started or not, but it's like that whole entourage listened and saw the star because they were, what do they call it? What astrologists? They looked to the stars, and so they followed it. And what did they find? And how did they know to bring gifts to begin with? Okay, we're going to travel. The song goes, we're going to travel afar or whatever. But they brought gifts to a king that they thought was going to, I don't know what the religious was. They're a king that was going to save the world, or they were going to worship him. And I'm just amazed at that whole thing, that a whole group of people would travel so far to worship a child. And where were they told that this,
Right.
that this was going to be the Son of God? Where did that happen? We don't have the scriptural reference for that. But they followed, and that's what we're called to do today, is to just follow.
Wow. I went to an event we could go Friday, and it was a startup church, really sweet little church down in Palm Bay. Fresh Start, just to shout out to those guys, and Bruce, the pastor there. I got one of the invites of they showed the film. I think it was called Why the Nativity. It's a David Jeremiah.
Cool.
Narrated thing. If you get a chance, you should check it out because it goes into that, and the 3 magi, and it paints a picture of this entourage that was with them. But he puts it out there that Jesus was about 2 years old when they came, and
Because there's a reason Herod said 2 years,
2 years or
younger.
younger, right?
Well, and that's, if you remember, that's actually why he went to Egypt. That's
Yep.
what a lot of people don't realize is Jesus, they tipped him off.
They boogied out.
And they said, "Hey, this is coming," and we've redirected Herod for now.
Yeah.
But Herod's going to figure it out, right? And think about that, right? These guys, not only did they travel 2 years with this expensive gifts to see this king, but then they basically lied to the most powerful ruler in the land at that time, knowing that I don't know if it's in there, if it happened, I don't know, but he's probably going to send somebody to go kill them next, right? If he finds out that they lied to him, for sure.
Crossed
And
him,
it didn't come back.
And without ever seeing Jesus, they were willing to take the risk.
right?
Like, they never even seen him yet.
Imagine that. If we just took the risk, and we do it on faith when we step out, and the faith they had to travel from afar. That's a definite term to do this, and
Well, back then things were a lot farther, even though they're
Right.
I mean, I went to Tampa in an hour and 56 minutes yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, I drive fast, but I mean that's 140 miles.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
You think
2
of-
hours. These guys, if they wanted to go to Melbourne from here,
Yep.
that's a day's trip.
Yeah.
right.
Or
What's
more.
an average person walk per hour?
2.5 miles an hour.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
So if
3.5
you
for me.
Well, that's because
And
you're
if-
not average.
It's because you're so tall.
Thank you.
You hit your stride length. Back then, people were short.
That's true.
You think we take so for granted the golf carts that surround our neighborhood, and Jesus and Mary, Nazareth to Bethlehem was 70, 80, 90 miles, and the Magi they showed up in Jerusalem, right, and they still had about a 7-8 mile walk after to get to Bethlehem from there. Now, it ain't flat like here in Florida.
No.
It's heavy, rough terrain.
Well, and you think that in my head you see them on a camel, but what you don't realize is that doesn't mean you move a lot quicker.
No.
Because that camel has hundreds of pounds of things on it.
Right.
Right.
Like you got this whole traveling wasn't like today where you pack it in the car and you got a hotel that's nice to stay at, so you don't have to worry about your shelter. You can stop at McDonald's to get food. These guys are carrying the kitchen sink with them.
I know.
Yeah.
Literally.
And they're not doing like my dad does when he leaves where he lives, and I'm leaving now. Be there in 6 minutes. You mentioned them texting and saying, "Hey, we're the three magi. We're leaving now. Be there in 4 days."
So you send a dove ahead.
Yeah, and they kind of did, right?
Actually, that didn't even cross my mind till then.
So many prices paid just from the beginning of the story, the knowledge of good and evil, the sin created, the destruction of the world, the rebuilding of the world by God through Noah, the escape, the bondage that the Jews went through in Egypt, the exodus from Egypt, 40 years in the wilderness. This has got to end, man. I hate this manna. I just should go back to Pharaoh. And all of those things were part of the total price paid, that, the plan that God set out. And, of course, the ultimate price is just the shredding of his body and the blood spilled. Like you said, we get past the first little Bible scripture, and then it's like tear open the presents and then get the turkey ready. And, man, just to sit and think about that overall plan blows my mind.
And I've always wanted to. I haven't met one yet in person, just to talk to an atheist and ask them why they don't believe, and basically ask them, have you read the book? And if they say no, well then you're not only an atheist, you're a moron.
You don't have you're ignorant moron.
Yeah.
You don't have all the information.
Exactly, because to not believe in the virgin birth when it was prophesied, Daniel, Isaiah, all through the Old Testament of exactly what was going to happen. Isaiah 53, which you just read, is a good example. You can't not, if you read the book, you can't not believe. I'm sorry.
Well, that
You're
are
a good example of
that are you're choosing to, right? You're choosing not to believe. You're making a conscious effort, a conscious choice to deny, to deny it, right? I mean, I'm sorry, it's just the truth.
I know someone that has read the book, but he just, with the reading of the Bible, there has to be a revelation that comes over you about your need. And the person I know that I have had conversations with, he's very versed in some scripture, but he still doesn't see in his mind, and we talk about it a lot. And he's a very, very smart guy. In his five senses, he can't get over some of the supernatural things that are there. And he can't get over that, you can prove, what can we prove actually happened from a physical touching standpoint? You can probably prove 70% of this book. Well, there's 30% where you got to take a step of faith.
Right.
And he's not comfortable taking that step of faith. And so there has to be a revelation at some point, a revelation of the Spirit that Jesus talks about so vividly with Nicodemus. It has to be a revelation of the Spirit. You have to be born of that. Paul talks about it throughout. And I've got loved ones that have not had that revelation yet. They know the stories. Yeah, Jesus died for my sins, but they haven't had that revelation yet. And you just pray during this Christmas time, that revelation will hit them in some way.
Well, and
take them deeper.
And how many people look at the Bible as mythology, right?
They look lot.
At it, I mean, that's not what it is. It's not just about customs and mythology, right? Like,
no.
And there are parts of the Bible, by the way, that I struggle with, right? Like, when I look at it, I'm thinking the timeline, right, of Adam and Eve to today. To think that the world might only be 5,000 years old or whatever. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe it's just so that our minds can comprehend it. I don't know, right? I'm not going to argue that. That part doesn't really matter to me.
No.
And you can get into some of the other things like the Nephilims or whatever they're called.
The giants.
The giants. But what's interesting about all those things, the flood, a lot of people argue that the flood, was it true, was it not true, all that. But if you actually look across religions as a whole, they all mirror the same things. There's a flood in almost every religion. There's Nephilim. They might call them something else. There's giants in every religion.
Right.
There's all these things. So are you telling me that the whole world got it wrong? No. But we have a living God.
Right.
And that's a big difference, right?
And in the non-Christian, some of the big non-Christian religions acknowledge no one doubts Jesus walked on this earth. No, and but thinking he's the Messiah and the Savior is what the Son of God is what a lot of people have trouble getting their minds around it. And there's no doubt that this book is historically accurate, that Jesus was crucified based on the eyewitnesses, and we can go into the case for Christ all day long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, archaeologists try to prove it wrong all the time. Every time they try to prove it wrong, they prove it right.
Yeah,
Right.
So,
But why do people not want to believe? Think about that. Because, like you said, there's a lot of evidence out there in nature. There's a lot of evidence that there is a creator. But people don't want to believe. And I think it's because they don't want to give up what they perceive as control of their lives.
Yeah.
They don't want to abide by somebody else's rules, or they just want to be in control, which is kind of the original sin, kind of what Satan in heaven wanted. He wanted to be like God.
Yep.
And it's prevalent in all of us today. We want to be in charge. We don't want to give up our rights to do whatever we want, and so we reason away that there could be a creator.
yeah.
It's an ego thing all day.
Yeah.
I mean, the ego's the in my opinion, the root of most evil is your ego. Mm-hmm. If you can give up your ego and humble yourself, and that's, we go back to what the Jews thought the king would look like, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about it, but then Jesus came and showed us what a real king is like, what a real man is like. And if you look at Solomon and all the best kings, their best moments is when their egos went away.
Right.
And they were showing humbleness and forgiveness, and
They were stripped down.
they were stripped down to this basic, to who they were as humans, and they got rid of the ego of I'm better than, right?
When David wrote the psalm that after he had fell with Bathsheba, created in me a clean heart, O Lord, and renew a right spirit within me. The humility in that, and that's what offers us a relationship with Jesus Christ, is to be able to come before the throne and be humble before a God that loves us and had paid the price for our sins, past and future. And knowing that deep inside, that to me is the reason why I serve Christ. Mm-hmm. I don't have that ego anymore like I used to, where, you had to buy me the T-shirt. I won't.
I still appreciate you calling me out at a man's conference over that one.
He called me out. That's right, he did call you out.
At least you could have done was wear it under a button down or something.
You're referencing the "Don't Be a Dick" T-shirt.
Yeah, that's Michael Thomas put just his face on it with nothing else.
What was great is the whole room just turned and looked straight at me. I was and I still don't feel bad about it, but I just know that I was being judged big time in that moment.
No, you weren't.
No,
No, there was judgment in that room at that point in time, for sure.
You bought a T-shirt with a picture of Jesus on it that says "Don't be a dick," and I need to get down a few more pounds before I can wear it. So
No, you don't. Just wear it.
yeah, I think you should, man.
ugly.
Well,
It's like me in that Cussin Christians shirt, the T-shirt. I put that thing on the other day, and it was like a baby tee. It's like I told Ash, I said, "Don't wash it, don't shrink it."
we're gonna get another round of them
got
after
it.
the first of the year sometime.
Well, no, it's not that. I need to lose about 50 pounds.
All right. Well,
I'm actually gonna. I got to stop talking about it and do it.
It's resolution time, baby.
After the holidays, though.
Yeah,
Too much good food coming.
too much
up.
coming.
That's the problem. Is there's always some reason not to do it.
Right.
So at some
I
point, I
know.
just got to jump on a wagon.
I know it's tough. I did it last year, and I'm glad I did.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm glad I did. Well, man, this is awesome. The price paid for Christmas. It's just so heavy to think about that Jesus came. He was born. He was in heaven and was born, knowing what he was about to do, and he set foot and did it. He educated so many, told them about this new way, knew he was going to get killed for it. The sins of the world dumped on him, but he started in a water trough in a cave in Bethlehem, and not the mighty warrior guy that the Jews thought he was going to do, how he's going to come.
Well, and there's so much symbolism in everything about his birth. The fact that he was in a water trough, like you said, and then later he calls himself like living water. He's the water of life,
right?
And so
Big
there's
time.
so much symbolism in everything surrounding that. It's amazing.
Well, that's what I think is so interesting is like back to what Michael was saying. If you read the Bible and then you actually, with an open mind, if you're going to read it without an open mind, don't read it. But if you read it with an open mind and then you start to think about those things, these scriptures were written so far in advance that you could never have planned it out. And then there's silence for 500 years before he gets there.
Yeah. Right. No prophets.
Imagine, I can't remember what I ate for breakfast last Wednesday.
Right.
But to try and remember 500 years of books that have been handwritten, there's only a small group of people in the world that even have ever memorized them. Right. So
a small group of people in the world could even read them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're talking literacy's at an all-time low.
Yeah.
I mean,
could even read it. Yeah. Had no clue.
And it's to think that they would have been able to mimic that. Oh, let's have my son, and we're going to pretend it's this and that. No, you can't even fake it.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry,
Get fired up, baby. This is good stuff.
I get a little geeked out on that stuff because it's just, how do you not believe? Like, I don't get it.
I'm just having a lot of reflection, as you guys know, and a lot of people know. My mother passed away 4 days ago, and so my heart is kind of and my mind are in a little different place than most Christmas times. Sure. So I'm looking at my dad and my son and my stepsons and my wife, and I'm going to be with a lot of family next week for my mother's memorial, and then we're going to converge on Texas to lay her ashes with immediate family. So I've been so plugged into that, and I've been reconnecting with cousins and people that I haven't talked to in years. Where does time go? I mean, I got cousins I was so close to in my younger days that I haven't talked to in 15 years. Yeah. And I'm thinking like that, and while we're sitting here, my cousin Suzanne called me, and I know she's helping me plan for the Texas celebration, and I said to her the other day, I said, why don't we ever talk? Where did that go? So I'm having a lot of that kind of stuff of reconnect, healing, need healing in my family, and just that kind of thing is going through my heart right now. And just my dad having peace and moving forward. It's going to be tough for him during this Christmas season. So not a great answer. It's a long answer, but that's kind of where I am.
Felt honest.
It was from the heart, brother. You know me.
Well, it being so close to Christmas, you can be mindful that Christmas really is the beginning of God's redemption plan.
Exactly.
And so your mom is in heaven now because of that.
Right.
So she's reaping the benefit of that. So that these two events are so close together, you can reflect on that. So that's why it's a big deal. That's why Christmas is awesome, because it's the beginning of God's redemption plan. This is the kickoff.
Yeah.
For him, making a way for us.
Right. I don't know. What are you thinking? What's Christmas bringing for you this year?
I mean, if you're asking like what would I want to get?
I'm just asking. I mean, anything you want to talk about?
Dallas Cowboy Super Bowl.
A new
Super
Fender
Bowl would be
guitar.
nice. Yeah, there's a custom guitar I'd like to get, but it's probably a couple years away.
Is Santa bringing that?
No.
Okay.
No.
I
don't even think about gifts anymore for myself.
I don't either.
I don't at all.
Get a couple things for my kids. The main thing is being together with family and creating some new memories. But my wife asks me every year, "What do you want?" I'm like, "Well, it's expensive, and I don't care if I get it anyway." So
fruit of the loom.
Well, it's funny. What you're going through this year, I went through last year. Right. My grandmother passed away on Christmas Eve last year, which was ironically her wedding anniversary as well.
Wow.
I think I told you guys about this. We talked, but so for me, I just want to have a normal Christmas, whatever the heck that means, right?
Right. Yeah. What does that mean? As soon as you get and think it's normal, God's going to throw you a curveball.
But I'm looking forward to just a time to come together and just be a family and finally just, like you said, the presents. If I want something, I buy it. Like, I'm not waiting till Christmas.
Christmas all year round for you, buddy.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Steelers golf cart.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's on your Santa list, dude?
Kind of the same thing. Just we're going up north. Got the kids coming in. Just loving on them, wanting to be a light in such a dark world. However that looks, I just, having the family together is going to be great. So, and Michelle and I, we, it's like, just buy it, man. I mean, if that's what you want, I guess I'm at the point now in my life where it's like the whole gift thing just doesn't, I don't really get into it anymore.
The only reason we're going to do gifts is because
you got kids.
Well, obviously the kids get gifts, but Ashley and I, we've talked about it, it's like, like you said, just buy it, right? But like, we want the kids to see the affection between us. You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
But that's the only reason. So like, I pretty much know what I'm going to get. She probably knows what she's going to get. But it's more about the modeling for us at this point, like,
right.
and making it. But otherwise, it's just seeing those kids wake up in the morning, and we might even make them slip upstairs so they have to come down the stairs type thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Just because
it is fun when they're young and they're so excited about it.
Cool.
Watching them open the gifts.
It's the
great.
coolest, man.
And Corbin, I mean, obviously the funkin' mermaid kid. He makes such great faces,
Aww.
that it's just like I'm just imagining what it's going to look like. I mean, when they see that elf in the morning, which you guys can't see now, but I mean that just makes their day.
They're fired up. They wake up looking for him. That's cool.
What elf?
He's in the kitchen, I think.
And he's right
there on top of the Grinch dog.
So he's a naughty elf. He does stuff in the evenings.
The dog of the Grinch.
And you move him around?
Yeah, so his name's Scout Stockington. And
Scout Stockington.
He reports back to Santa every evening and how the kids
Naughty
were
or
that
nice
day.
kind of thing?
Naughty or nice type of thing.
Good manipulation.
That up.
We do it every year.
For
Good
how long?
manipulation.
You do it from basically Black Friday until Christmas. And every night we do something different. And if you look it up, like there's some people get really creative. Like he TP'd the Christmas tree the other day. So we had toilet paper all over the Christmas tree that morning when the kids woke up. And
That wasn't a thing when my son was.
no, this is the last 5 years, and the
Yeah.
Jews have the mensch on the bench, which is a similar thing for their for Hanukkah. There's a mensch on the bench. Yep.
Well, if they get a hold of him, they might beat the crap out of him because he's doing all these bad things, right?
well, no. So if
spying
they
on
touch him, he loses his power, which means he can't report back to Santa
You are
how good
the
they were.
minds in
so many rules.
That sucker
whatever.
up all year round, man.
Oh, yeah. No, I've talked about him in July. I'm like, hey, we're halfway there. Scouts watching.
Get out.
Oh yeah, I throw them out there all the
It's
time.
so cool with the little ones and see the wonder in their eyes. And
Well, I want to see when they come to realize that's BS. They're going to be like, "Yo, Dad, what's up with that, man? You controlled us for all these years with this stupid little elf thing.
Oh, they
It's a
can't-
lie.
They can't watch
It was a
this.
lie.
They can't watch this.
No, they don't watch us anyway. I'm not letting them listen to a show called The
Sorry
Cussin
for all the
Christians.
kids out there that may be watching this.
Well, man, this has been amazing. I appreciate y'all and love y'all so much. It's hard to believe that we're like 5 episodes into the new year of our podcast.
Season 2,
Season 2 is rocking and rolling. And just the discussions we're having, the comments we're getting. I'm at the gym wearing that T-shirt, and I was doing a reverse fly, and so my back was to the gym. And I felt this person come by and turn around and look at the front of my shirt, and is that real? I said, yeah, you need to listen to those guys. They're really good. Where can I find it? Oh, yeah, it's on every podcast channel. They're good, man. You need to listen. Lady at Costco asked me, is that a real thing? I said, yeah, you need to check them out. They're good. I'm going to listen right when I get in the car. I'm not taking credit or anything. I'm just going, you need to listen to those guys.
Yeah.
Well, now
Those
the
guys.
videos are out there. It's going to
Now-
kind of come out of the
That
bag.
was him.
That was
Yeah.
him. Oh, that was the guy.
That was him. So we appreciate
Yeah,
you guys
a local
tuning in.
celebrity.
We just pray that your Christmas is amazing. That you can maybe have discussions like these around your Christmas table. How cool would that be instead of going, oh, these mashed potatoes are more buttery and delicious than ever. You know how
How
we
is
make
school going again this year, Johnny?
how's school going? Did you make good grades? And oh man, can I have some more of that gravy? Oh, what'd you put in this gravy? All that kind of stuff. Why can't we talk like this with our families?
Yeah.
That'd be too cool, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Well, all right. Well, thanks for checking us out. We're going to be back. Not sure what it's going to look like next time. We might be doing our first Zoom one since we're all going to be in different parts of the country or different areas. So, but we will be coming back with another Cussin Christians. Check us out on the Grace for Man podcast. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast with our friend Gary Miracle tomorrow morning.
Sweet.
So that'll hopefully come out Christmas week as well.
Christmas miracle.
Christmas Miracle, Gary Miracle.
Name of the episode.
That's
and
great.
Also, we're lining up Dr. Farley and John Lynch for the Grace for Man podcast. podcast coming up, and then Mike and Tyler, I think we're going to have after the first of the year. So I'm really fired up about that. As we're starting to have more.
A-listers, man.
Hey, man,
Awesome.
I can go nowhere but down.
Well, that's what this podcast is.
That's right. That's that.
We got the
we're
B-listers
We got
here.
the B-listers right here. But
All I want for Christmas is my left front tooth.
you do. You look like you work and live in the country. And
Can you get a gold one, please?
get a gold one there?
Doesn't-
When are you getting that replaced, man?
Blinked,
Doesn't your insurance cover that? You need better insurance.
but they had to put bone in, and it has to heal for like 3 months before they can put the implant in. And then the little flapper thing that I got makes me talk like this again. So I'm like, I'm not wearing that sucker.
You're talking about implants and flappers?
Yeah, it's called a flapper. You put it in the space of where your tooth is at.
Okay.
And it's
Just keep reminding us
It's
of
like wearing a retainer.
I start talking like this again, so it's like, that's bad memories. I'm not going
Just
back
like
to
old
that.
times.
It just gets better and better with Michael.
It just
B-listers.
there's always a time when it just goes
us.
downhill. You know.
All right, well, guys, Merry Christmas. If it is close to the end of the year, and if you're looking for a tax-deductible donation, we will use your donation to crush Satan. So just go to impactministries.org, click on the Give button. We also have an initiative that we are partnering with Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation and the Roundtable Dementia Support Team. My mother, being an Alzheimer's patient for the past 6 years, we lost her a few days ago, and about 3 weeks ago, we started this initiative called Music and Memory to see the effect of your loved ones reacting to their favorite music from their childhood, teenage years, or younger years. As those headphones go on, it's breathtaking to see. I saw it with my mother. I saw it with other people. As my mom was listening to her first beloved, Elvis Presley, the other day, when she was in the hospital before she went to hospice, she started snapping her fingers, man.
that's
and
cool.
then she came out of that shell and she was there. So we do have that as a big project that we're working on. We're going to supply these headphones to as many memory care, adult daycares that we can, and your tax-deductible donation will go straight to that. You can click on it on the website and see Music and Memory. So 100% of the funds will go to this initiative to help these patients and caregivers of those patients that have Alzheimer's or dementia. So check that out for us, and it means so much to me and to my father. And those of you who know my father, he's one of the most amazing men I've ever met. I'm just his dad. I'm just his son, so I'm biased. But to see how he's cared for and he's working with these other patients and caregivers it's his ministry, and so we would appreciate you helping with that ministry. So that's it. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Like, remember Chevy Chase? Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Kiss my ass. Kiss my ass. That's Christmas Vacation. Watch it tonight, and you'll get it when you see it.
Elf on it.
And you can watch Elf as well. But until then, we'll catch y'all next week. I'm Trey.
I'm Michael.
I'm Brad.
I'm Jeremy.
Ho, ho, ho. We are the
Cussin Christians.
Hollywood.
I heard a advertisement for a emergency room the other day. Have you heard those?
Emergency room.
They're advertising. I was up in Orlando, so I don't know what station it was, but it's like, you got to advertise. I mean, do you make a choice when you're on your way to the hospital?
Yeah,
I mean,
I've never been on the way when I was thinking about where I'm going.
Exactly.
I'm just going.
Weird.
I saw a billboard that said 30-minute wait. Just 30-minute wait time in our ER. And it's like,